Welcome to Improv for the podcast. On tonight's episode, we have a special guest, Kevin Young, who will tell us all about his new endeavor, acting for the people. Let's hit it. Welcome to Improv for the podcast. I'm your host, Michael Lee Evans, and today I'm joined by the spectacularly talented man of the Midwest, king of Chryslers, Kevin Young.
Wow, that needs to be forever logged wherever I go from now on. Can we trademark
Absolutely.
that? Absolutely,
yeah.
That
we need
incredible.
To get like a lower third in there.
Yeah, for sure.
A little chevron for you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
Yeah,
This
Kevin,
is awesome.
thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
So for those of you at home or driving or wherever you are right now, Kevin Young is kind of new to IFTP, but he's coming in and he's starting some work here teaching acting classes.
That's right. Yep,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah. So Kevin, could you tell us a little bit about kind of how you ended up at this place, IFTP? How'd you find us?
Of course. Well, my journey is long and filled with all kinds of friendships. So I, many years ago, went to, graduated from a theater conservatory, Webster Conservatory in St. Louis, Missouri. And when I was there, one of the first people I met in the dorms was a wonderful actor by the name of Micah. Micah Gonda now runs the Pico Theater. Yeah, so I knew Micah when she had, went by her maiden name, and Micah and I became very, very fast friends. I mean, she knocked on my. She'll love this story that I'm telling this. She knocked on my my dorm room door freshman year before we knew anybody, and said, I opened the door and she said, "Hey, has anyone ever told you that you remind them of Matthew Perry from Friends?" And of course, that's who I essentially had tried to emulate my entire high school life. So that to me was a huge compliment. Yeah, somebody sees me, right? They finally get me. So we became very, very close. And she was one of my favorite actors in conservatory when I was there. She is so talented. So, and we've known each other since then. We're going on a couple of decades, and have been friends and have been in contact over the years. And she and I have talked about our careers and where we're going and what we were up to. And she knew that I was looking for some challenges and looking for some different things to work on. I was very passionate about getting back into the giving back sort of venture of an artist and being involved in other people's progression. So Micah relayed to me that there was somebody that she knew that was renting space at the Pico Theater, and they were looking for specifically an acting coach, director to come in and teach scene classes, scene work. And it sounded amazing. So I was introduced to Matthew Moore, who brought me in, and we had a conversation in this room, actually. This is where the interview was right here.
In this room?
In this chair, actually. So this is sort of out of body. I feel like I'm being interviewed for another job.
Yeah.
And we just sort of hit it off. We're both Midwest boys. We had a lot in common. And he sort of, he just has that artistic excitement that I really love, that he's game for everything and for anything. And so we had a great conversation, and we just sort of talked about what we wanted to do with it, where we wanted it to go, and that's where we are. And then, of course, the AFTP neon sign was officially made.
Yes, in the lofts.
Yes, and we were off and running, and here we are.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. Wow, you've known Micah. Oh my gosh.
It's been a long time, yes. Since and I love Micah so much. She is just such an incredible artist, and I know sometimes that word gets thrown around, and it's sort of it's one of those do we really want to say artist? But she truly is, and she really loves theater and has been so passionate about it, for decades. And so it's amazing to see what she's doing with the Pico. Did you get a chance to see the Pico before it was turned into what it is now?
No. I've heard
the work that she did in there is incredible. Yeah. I got a chance to sort of walk through it just before anything was, just as she was kind of figuring out what am I going to do with this space, and then I came back, and it is what it is now, and it was just incredible. And the work that Alton does over there with the tech work, my gosh, it's so great. Yeah, very cool place.
Yeah, Elton, phenomenal. Micah, I had no idea that Micah was an actor. I
yeah?
know Micah from like a purely business standpoint. I feel like just producing, calling the shots, running the theater.
We need to get that woman back on stage.
like-
She is so
But
good.
it makes sense.
Yes,
It makes sense.
of course.
Yeah.
And that's usually where it starts is
Yeah.
you have some sort of a past, that you're involved in it somehow, and you want to keep it going for
Yeah, that's
everybody
why
else.
you're still around all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it felt like when Matt and I started actually cooking the sort of stew together of what this was going to be, it just felt like what a perfect opportunity to expand what IFTP already is and take it, because there's all these branches that are coming off of IFTP,
Yeah.
and it seems like an acting workshop class is exactly what was needed.
Yeah, it's a natural extension, I
For
think.
sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. Wow. Well, Kevin, what a fantastic introduction. I'm curious
on.
to learn more. But
Right on.
before we do, we got to play a little three things here on the podcast. All right. So for those of you who don't know, or you already know, three things. I'm going to give Kevin three categories. He'll list three things from each one. And then, of course, it's always personal. I do a little bit of research on our guests here. So we'll see how Kevin does about knowing himself.
All right.
All right, here we go. These are three things.
These are three things.
First category, just Midwest things.
It's a Michigan left. It's a left turn that you got to go right to make a left turn.
One.
The polar plunge
Two.
in the winter. That's not self-explanatory. Oh boy, Jets Pizza.
Three.
Ooh,
Very nice, very nice.
Midwesterners are gonna know that one. All right.
All right, next category, plays and musicals.
Okay, Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
One.
The Pillow Man.
Two.
The King and I.
Three. Very nice.
Wow, I got to be faster with these, Michael.
That's all right. That's
Come
all right.
on now.
Last category, your favorite roles you've played.
Oh well, I shouldn't have said the ones before. Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
One.
The Pillow Man.
Two.
And let's go with Tom from Glass Menagerie.
Three. These are three things.
These are three things.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. I kind of teased you up there, huh? We double dipped in the plays and musicals. But,
That's all right. That's all right.
It's fun. It's fun. All right. So I want to circle back to that first category. Why'd I ask you about the Midwest?
Because I grew up in a suburb of Detroit. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and I grew up in a suburb of Detroit called Grosse Pointe. You may know the movie Grosse Pointe Blank with John Cusack.
Okay.
Took place in Grosse Pointe. They didn't film in Grosse Pointe at all, unfortunately. And our high school said no to them filming inside of our high school because there was a scene in there where John Cusack goes into his. I hope I could tell the story here.
Yeah.
He goes into his old locker and opens it up and reaches up inside and pulls out like a 20-year-old joint. And our teachers or whoever was running the school was like, you can't film here. And it was about an assassin too. They were like, so you're not allowed to film in our high school, which would have been cool actually, because we were there at that time.
that
We would
would've
have
been awesome,
been a huge part of it. Just
Get some students in the background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So grew up in Grosse Pointe. It is it's an old vacation area for the Detroit car moguls back in the day. They would live in Detroit and then they would go vacation in Grosse Pointe, and then Grosse Pointe eventually became this sort of real hoity-toity kind of special place with these amazing homes that were all from Prohibition era, and it's right on the water. I grew up 2 blocks from Lake St. Clair, which was incredible, and I love the Midwest. I have a real kinship for Midwestern people, and I can almost use, not always, but I can sort of sniff Midwestern people out, and there's something about Michigan people specifically. So yeah, that's why.
All right. Amazing. I got to ask you, tell me about this pizza place.
Okay, so it's becoming a little more. It's becoming a little more widely known. Detroit style pizza.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Have you tried it? So it has to be square. We don't call it rectangle. Out here they say rectangle. It's square. It doesn't matter if it's actually square, but it's square pizza. And originally the story goes that Detroit style pizza, we're a little off subject. The Detroit style pizza, I just love it so much, was originally made in these square pans that were apparently left over from where the vehicles were being made in the auto shops and stuff. They had square pans that they eventually turned it. This could be a myth that I could be just.
No, it's fact. 100% true.
If it's on this podcast, it means it's fact. Yeah. And so Detroit style pizza became very widely known recently, but anyone who grew up in Detroit just called it pizza. We would just go get, and you'd either say square or round, and you went to specific places for square pizza and specific places for round pizza. Jet's Pizza has both square and round.
They've cornered the market.
Yes, and it is phenomenal, and it's a little simpler than your normal Detroit style pizza. There's a specific the way you have to make it, and with it's basically the sauce over the cheese. So good, man. It's so good. But Jets does it a little bit differently. And Jets is also outside of Michigan in places like Ohio and Indiana as well, I think, other Midwestern states. So it's one of those, if you talk to people that are from the Midwest and you say Jets, usually they know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they'll light up. They'll be like, oh.
Yes. And, oh, man, why don't we have it out here?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And it's so good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Too good.
Oh, man, now I want some pizza.
I know, right?
All right. Moving on to our second category, plays and musicals. What'd I ask you about those?
I am a professional actor and have been doing this my entire life. I also studied, as I had mentioned before, at a theater conservatory. So my training is a BFA in theater. Regional theater is what we called it at school, as opposed to musical theater. So I didn't have to take musical theater classes, even though we did still. And that's how I've been making my money ever since. So it's something I'm very, very passionate about, and I would love to see more live theater in general, but I would love to see more live theater in Los Angeles.
Yes.
It would be such a great thing, and there's some really great stuff going on here. That's for sure. But I would love to be a part of maybe the next wave of how do we get more butts and seats to see live stuff.
Yeah, people coming out to see things. Yeah, I would agree.
And as you know, I mean, with your sketch show, we talked about this earlier, but I thought that was so great. It was so fun to see original work, too.
Yes.
They were all written right by the actors involved, which was very cool.
Everyone
to see.
wrote at least one piece.
Yeah, and I thought that was so fun that there's a different feeling when you're creating it from the ground up, which is also just another aspect of theater I love, is creating something from the ground, either a brand new script or something that hasn't been produced in your area, for instance. We got a lot of things coming through Detroit when I was working there that hadn't been done before. It was the first time you were seeing Hedwig and the Angry Inch, for instance, in the local Detroit community. So that was really exciting to be a part of those new things. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So I guess that kind of goes in tandem. You already answered the question. What I ask you about your favorite roles? But you mentioned Hedwig, right?
Yeah.
Whom you played.
Yeah. Do you know Hedwig? Do you know the show?
I'm loosely familiar with the concept. I mean, I know Neil Patrick Harris, of course, was in it on Broadway. I think he may have been nominated or won a Tony Award for that role.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I know. I think Darren Criss was in it. I'm a Darren Criss fan.
Oh, nice.
So I loosely know the show.
Gotcha. Yeah. And they've had quite a few amazing actors roll through. I think Taye Diggs did it at one point too. Incredible. Yeah. This other actor, Michael, he's from a rock band, I think, but it's an incredible show. It's essentially a one-man show, two-man show, with a live band on stage. So it's not just you're not just doing a play. You are singing and performing these incredible rock songs that are just, it's just it was such a great challenge for me. I was young when I did it, and it was very exciting to come out of theater school and be challenged in a totally different way. Theater school is wonderful, but one of the issues you run into is everyone is 19. So if you're going to do Shakespeare, you can't all play the guys that are your age. Yeah. So when I was in school, I played a lot of older roles. Funny enough, then when I got out of school, I played a lot of younger roles.
Yeah, that's the real world, I think.
You know what I mean?
It always collegiate setting.
Exactly. So it was nice to come out and have a challenge like that within the first couple years after I graduated from school was really awesome. So that's one of my favorites. It's just such an amazing challenge for an actor. But I have a lot of favorites. I got real lucky too. I've had a lot of opportunities along the way that have been incredible for an actor for the challenge part of it, right? There are certain roles that it'd be great to play Hamlet, right? It would be great
Sure.
to be in, to be in Les Mis or something, a big musical or
one
Cats.
of the classics,
Just kidding about the Cats part.
Yeah,
Probably not Cats.
I don't know. There's some good music in there, but
It all depends how you feel about the costumes, I
it's me a
suppose.
little uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of us.
Lloyd Webber, he's got other great shows.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I'm not sure where I was going with all of that, but I'm extremely passionate about it, and I'm lucky. I've been fortunate that I've been able to have some challenges in my career, even as a young actor doing regional theater. To have those kind of challenges is just so great. So yeah, I feel very fortunate with my experiences, my career thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just looking at, I read your bio on the Acting for the People website, just talking about, I think you've had a number of great roles, both in musicals and just straight plays as well. For
sure.
Which is fantastic. Yeah.
Well, thanks. I didn't really dive into my professional career hoping to do more musicals. I did a lot in high school. That's sort of where we all start, or middle school, right?
Yeah.
And it was in my high school. Funny enough, it was kind of cool to be, a part of the choir and part of drama. We didn't necessarily have, it wasn't like, the atypical 80s movie where the jocks and the cheerleaders are the only cool kids in school and the theater geeks are a bunch of dorks.
Yeah. Look at those losers.
Right. Yeah. Somehow I just, maybe it was part of why I was drawn to it too, that it was kind of cool to do it, to be involved, and we were all buddies, and there was a lot of crossover between, the choir teacher would try and get as many, athletes as possible and many people playing football as possible. Yeah. So that was really fun. Anyways, yeah. It was, yeah.
So growing up, great transition. You were always kind of acting, performing from a young age. That's something you were always interested in or drawn to.
Yeah, for sure. And I was thinking about this. One of the things you and I had sort of talked about, or you had mentioned, is how'd you get your start with IFTP? Yeah. How'd you get to improv? All that kind of stuff. And funny enough, I was trying to think about all of this, where it all came from. My origin story is essentially an improv moment in a play from grade school.
Okay.
So something went wrong in this little fourth grade show.
What?
Right?
The fourth grade show.
Can you believe it? So either somebody said something wrong or something fell or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was, but I said something out loud that got a reaction from the audience, which I feel like that's what I've been chasing ever since, is that experience of I'm involved in this experience with an audience. Yeah. That I did something, or I said something, or I sang something that has affected this group of people, and that to me is what it's always been from then on. Is the amazing sort of reality of being an actor, especially in theater. It's different, film and television. The feedback is very different, but yeah, that's kind of where it all started. Was this moment of, I did something that wasn't supposed to happen as a little kid, whatever that was. It probably wasn't all that clever, but it got a reaction, and I feel like I've been chasing that ever since.
Yeah.
That feeling.
Whoa, that was cool.
Yep. And that's I think what people get, the joy they get out of improv, especially because it's a different fuel as an actor, right? If you're going to be doing something that's written versus something that's not. So I think that's why people get so juiced about improv, is like, whoa, I just did that.
Yeah.
Tennessee Williams didn't give me that line to say, and I happened to deliver it well. I came up with that in the moment. So yeah, I love improv for that.
Yeah. And you had that moment, and then you were like, I gotta keep performing, I think.
Yeah, I got to chase this little dragon, whatever that is, as a fourth grader, which led me into middle school. Auditioning for all of the musicals that we could, and then I sort of got scouted into going into the choir. My older brother was in choir, and the choir director came and saw something I was in middle school. Was like, "Oh, you've got to be in choir."
We need you.
Yeah, exactly. Which, as an eighth grader, whatever you tell an eighth grader, it's if you tell them they're needed or if they're important, that is life changing. That's the kind of,
they'll respond.
Yeah, that's kind of teaching and instructing that I feel very strongly about, that we need more of that kind of thing, sending people on their paths and helping them along the way.
That's awesome. Yeah. So that's very impactful for that teacher to come see your performance and say, "Hey, Kevin, we need you."
Yeah, absolutely. She was very impactful for the next 4 years of my life too. We had she was an amazing coach, director, but she had a I'm trying to be diplomatic about this. She made some, at one point some or local regional news about things that had happened. She was really intense. It was like having a really intense football coach as a woman choir teacher. So you know what I mean? So it was just, there was she was incredible. And there's so many people that went through a program that didn't continue to be artists or singers or actors, that took all of the things that she taught us over those years and implemented them into their own lives, whether they're a doctor or whatever. So again, very fortunate that I had all of these experiences really early on to get me cooking, so that, at this point in my life, I feel like I can give something back, that I have something to offer. For many years, I just felt like I don't need to coach or teach, because I don't feel like I have enough to offer. I haven't had enough life experience or career experience. And not to say that a 30-year-old can't teach an incredible acting class, but I felt like I didn't quite have that yet. But I'm feeling that in my 40s. That
35. No.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. What's your age range? Not your actual age, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to give back to something like AFTP is so great, and it's so rewarding for me as well. It is, I know, for the actors as well. They've given me some feedback about it, but it is so rewarding to see someone who's never held a script before. Yeah. They might have done a few improv classes, but they've never held a script. They don't know how to memorize lines. Yeah. They don't know how to, do I highlight everything? What, just the, so all that kind of stuff is really fun to see it come into play. Yeah. Come to fruition.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to ask, because I know you had a career, or like your career started, you went to school in Missouri, right?
St. Louis, yeah.
So you're in an acting conservatory there. You graduate, you stuck around the Michigan, Missouri area, as if that's one area. That's a lot of area.
Sure.
But, so you're there for a while, and then you come out to LA.
Yeah.
All right. What brought you out here?
Well, it felt to me, things were starting to get really exciting in Detroit and in Michigan around 2010, 2011. I think that's about right. We had all these tax incentives that were coming in. All these big movies were being made in Detroit and in Michigan specifically, and it was great. And a bunch of my friends got all these incredible roles, in like the Batman v Superman versus Superman. Yeah. That filmed in Detroit. Zack Snyder likes to go to Detroit a lot. And so there were all these things happening, and then it all changed. It all dried up. Whoever was in charge, whatever governor, we don't need to throw shade at names, but the governor at that point basically said, we're not going to take these incentives anymore. So all of that work disappeared. And it went
jobs for so many people. Yeah.
That's when it went to Atlanta. It's when it went to Ohio. All these other places that were going to say yes. And so we got really excited about the potential for expanding Detroit. And it didn't happen. And so kind of felt like, well, that thing we were gambling towards, they had built new studios, and there's all these people that were starting new catering companies and any leg of the industry they could, and it just disappeared. So
that's sad.
Yeah, it was a bit of a bummer. So I kind of felt like, well, if they're not coming to us, right, I feel like I need to go to them. And Los Angeles is, it's the place to be if you want to break in further to film and television, obviously. And I visited California as a sort of just to feel it out. Yeah. Funny enough, okay, so there's two parts of the story. Funny enough, when I first moved to Los Angeles in 2002, I stayed for a year and a half or so, and I lived in Micah's old apartment.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah. She moved out somewhere else, and I took over her lease with the roommate who also had gone to Webster. And then things just didn't pan out, and I had all these family things that happened. My grandmother had passed, and I felt as if I should be. It was really just me being scared about diving into. Yeah. I'd only lived in my mother's house, and then my wherever I lived in college. I didn't really have a lot of life experience at that point. Yeah. So I was a little little shy about venturing out, and I just thought, oh, well, there's an excuse to go home, right?
Yeah.
I'm needed, right? Which everyone would have been just fine, but I felt, okay, I should be back there while we're grieving and dealing with this. And when I went back, I happened to see some theater at the Hillberry Theater, which is the grad program through Wayne State University. Did I say that right? Or is that I went to the grad program. I hope I'm not getting those wrong now. But it's at Wayne State, and I went and saw a show at the grad program, and it was incredible. I was so blown away with the talent that I was seeing in my hometown, where I sort of thought, you can't be an actor here, right? So I went back there and thought, I'm going to do this. This is incredible. Look at all this amazing talent, all these great theaters, all this stuff happening. And I dove in for 10 years, and I sort of felt like, okay, maybe I could use some new challenges. And of course, we wanted them to be all of the new incentives coming in, and it wasn't that. So I thought, okay, let's try this out. And my brother happened to be living in California in Burbank, so I had a place to land, which is huge, right? To have a place to sort of...
Makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Huge difference. And to have some family in town is great. And I just sort of dove in, and it's been quite a ride ever since. And once you, I feel like once you, I was talking about how I visited, right? Yeah. Once you come to California, once you actually get to Los Angeles and see it for yourself, it's really hard to say no. It's really hard to say, I don't want to be there. I don't want to live there. Why wouldn't you want to live here, right? There are reasons, obviously, why you might not want to. But when you first see it, it's sort of this incredible, right? It sort of blows you away. And so when I had that experience, I thought, let's go back. Let's try it out again. And I've been here since. It's been over 12 years, something like that. And I love it. It's just, California is incredible.
California.
How can you, what could go wrong? It's just, I really love living out here. But yeah, so that's a long answer again to your simple question.
Oh, that's a great answer. Yeah, you got to seek those opportunities, because I feel like, I think your experience, am I wrong to say that your preference is stage acting? Is that true?
That's not wrong to say. That's definitely where I have my more experience is on stage, and that's certainly where the passion lies. When we teach this AFTP class, I teach it like a theater class. We're not putting up a camera in the corner and worrying about angles, right? We're not worrying about how different a close-up is versus a wide shot. We're working at like theater, because that's the basis for me. I feel like
that's where it all starts.
It's where it all starts. It's essentially what everything is. Whether you're doing a radio play, it's just theater without being able to see you. When you're doing a film, it's theater, but you put it on camera, right? So it's that's definitely my it's where my passion lies, and I keep coming back to theater because it's so vital and important. It's one of these things I feel like needs to be nourished too. As I said before, about not just Los Angeles, but everywhere, that we need to keep theater alive. Yeah. It's so easy to just make a movie on your phone with a couple people and AI, and nobody's involved, but that sort of experience can't be taken away from from live theater, which is. And I don't know, I feel kind of old school, saying those kinds of things. I don't
think you should.
But I think it's really important, and the more we can, I don't know how you get people excited about theater again, right? Because everything seems like it's a musical of a TV show, from a book, from a movie.
Based on another property.
Right, exactly. So how do we get excited about seeing the same thing over and over again? And I think it's just, we need more playwrights, young playwrights, people who are telling different stories. Yeah.
I think there's a magic to live performance that you can't capture it on camera. There's something about sharing the experience with an audience in a room, seeing the actors on stage. You're really close up, just seeing what they're going through and the stories that are being told. I think it's unmatched. It really is.
Truly.
Some people just don't know. They've never been exposed to that.
For sure.
They only know like middle school theater, high school theater.
For sure. And theater's not what got me started. I wanted to be Tom Cruise, right? I watched Top Gun 30 times when I was, right? Yeah. And I would, wet my hair down to try and make it look exactly like he had it. That's what I wanted to be, is that. And then once you experience theater, really experience it, it really it got me. It really grabbed me. But it wasn't like I was going to theater every week with my family or anything. It wasn't like an experience I was having that was so great. It wasn't until I did it myself and went, wow, this is incredible. It's unlike anything else.
Yeah. You had that opportunity. You tried it, and then you knew.
For sure.
Yeah. So, thinking about all of that, I kind of want to transition to talking about acting for the people.
Great.
And kind of some of the work that you've been doing here since you launched this with Matt, and maybe some of the things that you cover in your class.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to make clear up front was that we weren't aiming for any specific school or style of acting. So there are a lot of there are a lot of different ways to do it. And there have been a lot of wonderful teachers over the years that have made huge impacts on the entire industry, whether we're talking film or theater. And what I wanted to make clear up front is we weren't going to subscribe to anything particular. It wasn't like you were coming in to take a Meisner class.
Oh, I wanted Stanislavski.
You weren't coming in to take Stanislavski, a method, or, you weren't coming in to do Lee Strasberg. You're not doing Stella Adler specifically. Yeah. I am drawing from all of the things that I've learned over the years in my training in school, but also in my career, and trying to essentially boil down, 20 plus years as a professional actor, 4 years of conservatory into like 30 minutes, right? So that we can get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
The point of the class is to get to the work. And that was a fun challenge to be able to sort of essentially what I keep coming back to is tips, tricks, and shortcuts. How do you get to that work faster? How do you get to some good stuff without having to take a 2-year theater intensive? How do you get to it fast? And that's very, very difficult. But I will say that working with beginner actors has been really amazing to watch them because there isn't a preconceived idea of how I should be doing everything. It's sort of they're learning as they go, which is great. You can mold and meld a little bit more. So that was important. It's scene study work, so partner work, 2 people usually in the scene, so that you can really focus. We have done a wide variety of plays, mostly theater plays. They're easier to work with than a film script because a lot of times people have seen the movie too, and so then it informs too much of what's going on.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm trying to be like Steve Carell in this scene, and it's like,
Nobody
no, we
Steve
don't want to do
Carell.
that.
Yeah, it's just never going to work.
Yeah.
So the focus was how do we create a space for young actors, right? Actors with little to no experience with the actual acting side of it, but may have had some improv or elsewhere, and really get them into the work as fast as possible. So what I'm not doing is a bunch of games and a bunch of tricks. We're not doing games and exercises and things. A lot of the stuff that I did in conservatory, which is so amazing. It's great when you have 4 years to do this, right?
You have time.
Yeah. You got year 1, you can do the things you need to do. Year 2, you do you keep building year 3, and by year 4, you're so ready to go out and be a professional actor. You've covered it all, but I can't do all of that in the short amount of time, especially when it's either a one-off workshop for 3 hours or a 2-week workshop, which means 6 hours total, and you're not just working with 2 people. So I've got to be able to spread it out and cover all of these scenes at the same time. So how do we get into the work faster? So I just wanted to skip the look. I spent many hours of my life rolling around on the floor.
Yep.
And
same.
Screaming into the wall, and pretending like I'm this or that. And unless there's a purpose for it, I don't feel like it's necessary in the scene work. It's great to get to know you, right? It's great to be able to roll around and be I'm an animal now. Mm-hmm. But if you're not doing it for a purpose, it's different if you're doing an animal exercise inside of a scene. For instance, you're going to do the odd couple. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're going to put those 2 people, or the female odd couple, which we just did at AFTP.
Oh, wow.
You're going to put those people in that space, and you need to get something from them that you're not getting as their director. You can use an animal exercise to open the mind or open the body to something else, or you might be able to use some Stanislavski method, or you might be able to use some Meisner in the moment to what is working for the scene. Does that kind of make sense?
No, it definitely makes sense.
Because sometimes I feel like I'm trying to figure out too, what am I trying to do with these workshops and these actors and these scenes? What are we really trying to do? And for me, it's just getting to the work a little faster.
Yeah.
To be able to actually have a script in hand and look at someone across from you and say the lines and have them say it back and go, wow, look what happens when that engagement is there. And not to say there isn't value in that. I think that there is value in that. I wanted to be different in this workshop. You can take a lot of classes in Los Angeles. Yes. There's a lot available to you. Yes. In fact, I'm going to do a shameless plug here for a fantastic Meisner class I took at the Pico Theater with James Eckhouse.
Oh, yes.
He
yes.
is an incredible coach, teacher, director. He knows what he's doing. And that is a very specific thing he's doing in that class with Meisner. It's amazing, right? And there are all these other great classes around and great workshops and things you could do. My experience with them, aside from James's class, because I love James and he's such a great instructor. Other workshops I've seen, other classes I saw, it felt like there was just a lot of time not doing the work.
Yeah,
there was a lot of time of look, I'm your instructor, Kevin, so I'm going to spend the first hour and a half of our 3-hour session telling you why I'm good and telling you why you should spend your time and money to come to this class. And after a while, it just feels like you're fueling the again, not James. That is not the experience I had with James at all. He was so incredible. Yeah. But I kind of wanted to emulate the way James was doing things. Is like, how do we get into the work, right? And so that's where my focus was. And when I sat down with Matt in this room and I said, that's really what I want this to be. If we're going to do this, can we avoid some of the, and he's given me such great free reign to just take the reins with this and go for it. Free reins, take reins. Yeah. That doesn't sound like it really tracks, but
we'll go with it.
It's two different reins, right? Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
And it's been incredible to have that freedom for me as well, for the director to dive into the work and not worry about, does everybody know each other really well? Yeah. And did we talk about our days enough today? And did you lie on the floor while I walked around you and said a bunch of things that are supposed to feel influential as an actor? And again, there is value in it if you have the time.
Yes,
it's great. But if you don't have the time and you want to get actors up on their feet working, you got to find a way to implement some tips, some tricks, and some shortcuts.
Yep.
That is kind of what I keep coming back to. How can I get you to that thing a little bit faster? And I use all of those different schools of thought whenever they're necessary.
Yeah.
And I've had some actors respond with, "Oh, can I try that? That thing you did with them where they just focused on one line and just kept saying it in different ways. Can we try that in my scene?" And so that's kind of what AFTP has been for me. How can I guide actors towards not even the answer, but the curiosity and the ability to find the answer? If you understand, text analysis, even basically, you're going to be able to dive into a scene so much better, so much easier, so much faster than if you don't understand what text analysis even is. If you aren't able to break apart a scene and look at it quickly, if you're going to do a cold read or something on a scene, sure, you could memorize the lines and you can say them in an interesting way. But if there isn't anything behind it, for me, that's what would be missing. So how do we get you there a little bit faster? And that's been the challenge and the excitement of it all.
Yeah. I really appreciate kind of your approach, pulling in these multiple, I'd say, acting philosophies, right?
Sure.
Because I think, speaking from my own experience, not every person is going to respond in the same way. It's like, we're doing Meisner today. Meisner doesn't work for everybody.
No, it doesn't.
We're doing Stanislavski, Stella Adler, Uta Hagen, right?
Thank you.
All these
Another
different
one.
techniques.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Uta Hagen. I'm a Uta fan.
She's great. For sure.
But it doesn't work for everybody.
For sure.
And I think I love that approach of like, we're going to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Oh, you like this? Okay, great. We can use that in your scene too. And like,
absolutely.
Especially for someone who's a beginner and just starting out, like,
absolutely.
they don't necessarily need to know every single
Sure.
aspect of all these different techniques, right? Like
sure.
you said, get them started.
Yep. And if
Get
you
the
get them
ball rolling.
curious and they say, where did this come from? I'll say, I'll go read this book by Uta Hagen, or go read a Michael Chekhov, go free the natural voice with Linklater, go look, do all of these great things because it's out there. But we, sometimes it just feels like people are trying to fill time in either acting schools or acting classes or workshops, and people these days do not have time, and time seems to be the most, right? It's like it's that one thing that is so precious right now is time and keeping people's attention. And how do I engage in a class, in a workshop that's not going to last that long? If we're only going to do 2 weeks, 4 weeks if we're lucky.
Yeah.
How do we engage right away and get them up so that they feel that feeling of, I don't have a script in my hand, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to go in there and I'm going to try my best at this scene. And if I have to call line, I'll call line. And if I mess up, that's okay, because it's not about perfection. It's about having a free space to just do it. You know? So it's been really great. It's been really, really fun and super rewarding. And can I share a story real quick?
Yes, please.
So this connects to you, which is kind of fun. I went to see the sketch show that you directed. Did you sort of guide them towards the writing?
Yeah, so it's a whole thing. We put it together all in basically 4 weeks. So we start with nothing, write the sketches, block it, props, sets, everything.
And are you sending them off to write on their own, or are you kind of guiding them?
So they
through?
write it outside of class.
Okay.
We maybe get a little bit of feedback.
Got it.
Not a ton of time for it, right?
Got it.
Time.
That's what it comes down to.
So if they email it to me, I'll give some writing feedback, and then
Got it.
we just kind of keep moving.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I was very excited to come and see it. Matt has been so amazing about getting me in the space to see things.
Yeah.
And just a quick side note, I saw an IFTP show, and I'm not kidding. It's the best one. It was maybe the best night of improv that I've seen in Los Angeles in a long time. It was so good. I was so impressed. And at that point, it was like, yeah, I'm game for whatever Matt's doing. I want to do this with him. So anyways, I'm at your sketch show and I'm loving it. And I'm so happy I'm there. And I know a few people in the show from AFTP. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching, and I'm watching them work, of course, because I feel like a proud, director, coach. Yeah. Let's see what's look at that choice.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, that was bold, And so when I got done, or when the show was over, which was so fun, it was so fun to watch everybody, and everybody was really good. And some of the sketches were so bizarre and funny, right?
Yeah.
It was just a great night of theater. And I was making sure I said hello to everybody that I knew, which was only a few people. So I was saying hi to everybody, and then there's one more person I got to see. And where is she? Because she took my AFTP class. We won't name any names. And I chased her down. I was like, hey, I just want to say I was here, and I want to say, great job tonight. You did such a good job. And the look on her face was like, she turned to her mother and was like, Mom, this is Kevin. I just took his class, and I learned so much from his class. It was like a 2-week session, too.
Yeah.
Learned so much that I was implementing into the scenes. And I had said to her, I said, yeah, I saw it. She's like, no way. You really did? I was like, I saw all the work you were doing, the thing you did with the thing. And I named a couple of things that she had done. And that was so awesome to have the immediate feedback in this studio bubble of IFTP, that you can do some acting for the people classes, and then you can go be a part of your sketch show, and then take what you've learned and maybe take the sketch ideas into improv, so that you have your mind is working more like a writer than an actor, right? And then you want to take that and you want to maybe then go do stand up, and then you want to come back to acting for the people. I love being sort of involved in this bubble of IFTP.
It's an ecosystem.
Exactly. That's a great way to look at it. It's an ecosystem. And I feel like that's what most studios aim for, is having this feeling of connectivity. There's some sort of a tissue that holds it all together. Yeah. And that is Matt, of course, right?
Yes.
Matt and all the other people who work extremely hard here, but Matt is the one who is kind of putting it all together. And I love that. And I want to support that. That's why I'm here and so passionately talking about this, because I'm just I'm very excited about what's going on here in the studio. It's very cool stuff.
Absolutely. I think of it like cross-curricular collaboration, right?
Yes, of course.
That's, a big part of my sketch class is playing off that improv experience. Because most folks who take the sketch class, they've already been doing improv here for a while. So our foundation is like, hey, you've already done improv. You're already a writer.
Yeah.
We're just putting that on a page, and you get to refine it a little bit.
Sure.
And that's how we start kind of our whole writing process. So in that same way, right, between sketch and acting, or improv and acting, right, there's so many opportunities to kind of say, hey, remember when you did this, or you learned about this, or and it just comes right into everything. Okay. So I know with Acting for the People, it's really, we're just getting started, right?
Correct.
You've done some workshops, you're kind of extending those into longer, maybe 2 sessions, maybe even 4 sessions. So kind of what's your vision for Acting for the People? Right?
Well, sure. So
that's a big question.
Well, it's good, but it's good to be asked this question so I can start to kind of focus in that vision a little bit better. I think that we're open to seeing where it goes and getting as much feedback from the actors as possible. Yeah. When we just wrapped this last session, it was a 2-week session. So they got to work for 2 weeks on a scene, new scenes. No one had worked these before. And I asked them at the end, would it be fun to do a performance, not even necessarily of these scenes, but of something? Wouldn't that be great? And showcases are great. They're really fun. But what if we put on a 1-act play? Ooh. And we worked AFTP, basically became rehearsals to make that 1-act play and then put that up. Yeah. And so that they can really feel, because as you know, it's so different to finally put the script down and do the scene or the show or whatever. You get through it and you got the adrenaline, you're running through, and there's a scene change that you're involved in, right? So you're moving some boxes or whatever. And then at the end of it, you take your curtain call and they applaud, and you did something that you had worked on creating up until then, as opposed to creating in the moment and letting it sort of live in the ether right then and there, to be able to keep going back and doing something again and then get it quote unquote right perform whatever performance is at that point. Yeah. I personally love I don't know who said this, it wasn't my line, but the feeling is that art is never really finished. It's only abandoned.
Oh my gosh.
Have you heard that before?
Very similar quote. It's about movies. Yeah, a movie is never finished; it escapes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
That's one of my favorite quotes.
It's so good. Eventually, Jackson Pollock had to stop dripping paint.
Yeah.
He had You have to stop at some point, and whatever that point is sort of to be celebrated. I believe if you rehearse a play for 4 weeks, it's going to look a lot different than you rehearse a play for 6 weeks. Those 2 weeks will make all the difference, right? Critical. It's so, and it can be so rewarding just to be involved in it and have it happen. So the idea was, how do we implement some sort of a production or a show in a very small way, maybe like a one-off night, similar to your sketch show, where you would see, but it would be a play. And I don't know what it would be. There are playwrights like Christopher Durang. I don't know if you're familiar with Christopher Durang's work. Yes. He did this Actor's Nightmare, which is so incredible, and all these really great parody plays, and they're so great for just a night of fun theater. Maybe something like that, or maybe something that's written specifically for the class that they could then focus on. How cool would it be to have writers come in and work with us as well? Yeah, original pieces. For a number of reasons, original pieces are so much fun. Easier to produce too, a lot of times, right? Yes. To actually put them up. So I would love to be able to have that experience. And I think that that's something we could work towards, in the sense that I think that there are a few actors that have worked with AFTP long enough with me now, which isn't that long. We've only been doing this a few months. Yeah. That I've worked with them enough, I would know that I could cast them in something and I could work with them. And I think it might be something where maybe we'd have some actors go through the initial sessions to kind of feel how I'm aiming my directing, how I sort of do things, to go through maybe 2 sessions, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks total. And then after that point, coming into and it would almost be cast from people who were from AFTP, right? That it wouldn't be open to the public per se. We wouldn't just have an open casting call or something. We would pull from the people that have kind of gone through AFTP, or that maybe Matt knows, and we would say, oh, how would you like to come in and not only take an acting class, but play the part of Blanche, in a streetcar. Not that we would. Can you imagine?
Oh my goodness.
I've never been on stage before, but I decided Stanley Kowalski was a great part for you. It's like, that's not the way to do it.
Sure.
Why not?
My first role.
Right.
Oh man.
Which I'm sure a lot of kids in high school that probably could have been their
something
first
like
role.
that, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, might as well go for it. So we're figuring it out, I think, is the easy answer, but we're open to some feedback too. I want to know what's missing, what isn't being provided right now in this studio. How can we bring something unique to the experience? And the feedback was pretty generally positive. Yeah, it would be really amazing to do a play, even if could only rehearse it for 4 weeks. But we're just talking about small. It wouldn't be a 2-act, it wouldn't be a 2-act or a 3-act play. Something simple, maybe a 1-act. But it wouldn't be just I'm in a scene with you only. It was we're all in a play together.
Yeah.
And to do something comedic would be really fun. So I don't know. We're open to it. So if there are any writers out there who really have some strong pieces that would work well for a 10 or 8 person cast, something like that, 10 or 12 at the most, I think that would be really great. And I think the Pico Theater would be a perfect place to do this in. Yes. And I think that the actors could just get so much out of it, and it would be fun for me as well to see it actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Produced.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about it.
Nice.
There'd be some buzz there. I think people would be like, "Oh my gosh, we can go see a play here."
For sure.
Go AFTP. I'm excited about it.
Good.
I need you to make it happen, Kevin.
I'm going to do my darndest. And Matt was, Matt. He's so game, and that's what I love about him as a performer as well.
Yeah.
Watching him on stage, he's just game for it all, right? He'll just dive in and go for it, which I love seeing when actors are like that. And when I mentioned this idea to him, before I was even over, he was like, okay, great, done. We're doing it. Let's make it happen. I was like, great, let's make this happen. So that's the goal. But we have to figure out certain things, again, like, what would it cost to put up a show?
Yeah,
all those little things that producers have to worry about. But it would be great to have these, because I felt sort of bad. These actors had done such great work by that second night, and some of them had been there all 6 weeks up until then. So they had worked on other scenes before that. Yeah, and they'd built it. You could see the progression. Other actors had come in only for this session. Yeah. There's one actor who was brand new. Everyone else had been through it at least once. And to see the progress was so awesome. And I had challenged them to be off book as much as they could by the last time they did the show. Some of them were so great and completely off book. And we can go even further with notes and things we're going to work on. And I felt like, oh, man, you're not able to feel the thing, why you do this. Because at the end of the day, I love my job. I love what I do, but it all comes back to that experience I had when I was in 4th grade. It's me and everyone else. It's a shared experience. Yeah. The nights when you walk off stage and you can feel it from the audience, and you go out and you see someone you haven't seen in years, and they see this play you're in, and they're still crying from the play you were just in. That's what it's about for me. And so if these actors, you go through a workshop or a class session, and then nobody sees it and nothing happens. And I may give you all kinds of accolades and say, you did a great job, look at all the things you learned, but you don't get that feeling of an audience. So it would be cool to, and I don't know what that looks like. So we're trying to figure it out, I guess. But I'm excited to be able to give people that experience. And I know they may have had it with improv or other places, but it's different. It's different with when you get your lines right and you say something to someone, and the reason there's going to be a gasp coming up is because you've worked it just right. Yes. And you time it out, and you pause just long enough to give that line, and it hits, and you feel the audience go, right? And then
earn the moment.
You earn that moment, and you're on stage going, shit, that worked. Like all that stuff, my director kept telling me, make sure you pause 2 more seconds, because it's going to get the moment or the laugh or whatever it is. And it all works. It's a different kind of artistry. It's just a different kind of way of creating art, and it's all valid, right? But it's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Different, I think, than what we've seen here, which is good.
Yeah.
It's something new.
And that's what I was feeling from Matt, and or through Micah from Matt, was that he was really feeling something new and different. And IFTP has been around for a while now, and doing some really great work. And how amazing to be able to expand it to somewhere else. And hopefully this is the beginning of a lot of things. It would be great to see acting for the people expand beyond scene study class, because I know there's a lot of desire out there for monologue work, audition work, and not to say that I would be the only person doing it, but to expand it to bring in someone who's really just, their whole thing is monologues. They really just want to focus on doing monologues, and that's it. And maybe, there's I don't know what else. There could be all kinds of different things that are audition is another great place, not just monologues, but auditioning for the camera, which now has become the thing. I haven't done this week, thankfully, luckily, I've had 2 in-person auditions, but I haven't done an in-person audition for like years.
It's been all self-tape because of COVID, right?
Yes, it's so bizarre, and there's something that you miss with that in-person. There's a way to sort of like to win the room over.
Yeah, when someone comes in, that's a great opportunity to make an impression.
Yeah,
besides just your performance. Yeah.
For sure. So to be able to have a class that taught, and again, I know there are plenty of audition classes out there. Audition for the camera, specifically for the camera, or not, and not to say that there would be anything different. It would just maybe what could be our spin that's slightly different in this class. You know that this is what you're going to get into with the scene work. Everyone works every week at least 2 times. So you're up with your scene partner at least 2 or 3 times. Sometimes you're not just working in the scene. I might work you through an A/B scene. These are like very basic scenes.
Right, contentless scenes, right?
Did I say again?
Contentless scenes are pretty similar. No.
I don't know. What's that word? I don't know the word.
I think it's like a contentless scene, or the way I think of it is like there's A/B scenes, right?
Tell me.
And then it's like the lines are generic, but you kind of give the context.
Yeah. How do you spell that word?
I don't know that I've ever seen it written contentless. So I guess it's like contentless.
Oh, I get it. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Content and contextless.
Yeah.
There really is no idea where you are. They're very general terms so that you could say, okay, now you guys are in a sauna. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you guys are at a basketball game. So there isn't anything imprinted on the scene other than the words being said by the. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Contentless. Yes, absolutely. So there might be that, but you're working with your scene partner every week. You're not going to sit there waiting for your time to go, right? Where the instructor took way too long on this other scene, and I'm not going to be able to get up.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge I still have. I have to.
It's hard.
Get myself on time, which is tough when you're just in the meat of it, but your 15 minutes is up, so we got to move on. You know what I mean? Which can be tough, but it's all part of the process.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the idea. How do we make sure that these actors really are doing the work? They're able to get up and they can feel it. They can feel what it's like to have a scene, and it's so fun to talk to some of these actors. Some of them have only done improv with IFTP or elsewhere, and I said to them, if you did an improv scene, if you improv a scene in front of me right now, and I asked you to do the exact same thing again, verbatim, would you be able to do it? And they were like, I don't know. Because it's so, right? It's so in the moment of just whatever comes to you. You might be able to get the feeling of it the same, but to be able to get the exact words it's tough. Yeah. It's a challenge, and it's really fun to see actors take on that challenge. It's been very rewarding thus far.
Yeah.
Now I just hope we keep going and going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, if you're even like thinking about it right now, you're sitting at home, you're like, I don't know, acting, you got to try it.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. It's different than improv, and I think you'll find yourself so rewarded and just fulfilled even. Just by getting to try it.
And we don't throw you in the deep end per se. I try to make sure that you have an understanding of what we're doing before we do it.
Yeah.
But I do want to give people scenes that are challenging and that are fun, that are a fun challenge. Yeah. Right? It's a little different to. And there's no Shakespeare. I mean, we're not going to be diving into classic theater.
I'm not bringing pentameter.
We're not bringing restoration theater in here. But I do want to get people excited about the work. So some of the classic plays are worthy of it. I drew from The Glass Menagerie, for instance. I also like to draw from things I know a little bit about, so I can give you some feedback. If we need to get to the what and the why and the how of it all, and you say to me, why am I saying this? And I go read the play, right? They don't have time usually to read the whole play. So it's how do I give you a clue into, well, Laura is going through all of this stuff because her mother is this way and her brother Tom is this, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the gentleman caller is coming and there's all these things. And so I can help fill in some of the gaps a little bit, but I also like to sort of strip the scene of context a little bit. That you go, excuse me, this doesn't have to be set in 1940s or whatever it is, 20s. The original Glass Menagerie. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if the scene's supposed to take place in a restaurant, but you guys decide it'd be better to put it in a cafe where you're not drinking alcohol. That doesn't really, if it doesn't change the scene, then what does it matter? And so I like to strip that as much of it as I can. And there are some young actors who are very, very, very vehement. It says that I put my shoe on here.
Yeah.
And you have to, it's nice to be able to break that down and go, it doesn't matter right now. We're not doing a performance. This is just this for right now.
Yeah.
So to break some of that stuff down. So for me, what it really does is it gives agency and authority for the actor to make choices. And that's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. How many times are we going to be able to see Hamlet over the years that you're alive? Probably hundreds. How many times could you go see The Glass Menagerie? Thousands. And there's going to be 1,000 different Toms doing the same words, but if you're not making choices, then it's going to be really generic and probably just like the other guy who did it right before you. So how do we create a space where you as the actor are coming in and saying, even though these words have been said thousands of times by other Amandas, how do I bring something to it in this moment that's a little bit different? So casting sometimes is that trick, but a lot of times it's just, let's break it down. Let's just bring it down to the words. What is really going on between these two people and go after that. So again, I could get into a whole class in this discussion about all the things I like to do and all the different venues, but you'll just have to come to Acting for the People to get the rest of it.
That teaser works for me. Just talking about choices. Yeah, that's why we keep going back.
Yeah,
like you said, we can see the same play 1,000 times, but what each individual actor brings to a role, to a part, what's unique to them. And how they choose to approach it, how they physically move, everything.
For sure. Imagine how different Hedwig would be seeing it with Taye Diggs or Michael C. Hall.
Yeah.
Imagine that. I mean, I would never cast those two guys in the same place.
No.
But to see them, to see them do it would be incredible. So that's what I want to. That's sort of a yes and to it is like I also want to make sure that the actors are coming in with enough agency to make choices that I'm not just saying
feel empowered. Yeah.
Right. And they're not trying to satisfy Kevin. There's a lot of instructors out there. These days, there's so much of it I've sort of been perusing recently.
Yeah.
Online, there's a lot of instructors that teach, and it seems to be the exact same thing every time. Do it the way the instructor wants you to do it. Whether it's Meisner, for instance. Meisner is a great one that you can tell who has taken the class from their instructor because they do it the same way. And they do it the way that the instructor wants them to do it. And that's not why I want to be involved with Acting for the People.
No.
I want to be able to give that to you, the actor. What do you want to do in this moment? And I'll help guide you through it. You make those choices, and I'll make sure that I guide you through it. You're going to make a big, bold choice here. That's great. But I'm going to need you to make a small choice in this other part of the scene so the bold choice makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So that it's not. So, anyways, that again is what I'm aiming for, and I think we're doing it. I think we're
so.
We're getting good feedback about those kinds of things. I would really just love to see a 4-week session as opposed to a 2-week session.
Yeah.
Be like the depth we could get would be so much greater.
Absolutely. Just more time for everything.
Yeah.
And memorization too. I mean,
it's
in
huge.
2 weeks, that's tough.
It's huge. And it was a challenge. And I did it kind of off the cuff just to see what would happen as a challenge. Because when presented with challenges, people behave differently. And yes, you're going to see all kinds of different results from it. And I had some actors who had never worked before. They're emailing me like, how do I do this? Give me some tricks. How do I actually memorize this stuff? And that in of itself could be its own class, right? Because everyone does it differently. There's not anyone I've ever talked to who memorizes lines the same way I do. Everyone is unique and everyone is different. And I think every time you're working on it, it's a little bit different. For instance, there's a theater audition that I have, and I needed to learn it kind of fast. They didn't provide the sides quick enough, so that I needed to get to it a little bit quicker than I normally would. I would spend a little time with it, so I needed to implement some of those tricks, using your iPhone, recording the other person's lines. You know? But these are all things that you can cover in a workshop, but you got to do it kind of quickly. You got to get to it a little, kind of glossing over things. So there's a lot of handouts that I'm giving out to make sure that all the things
out this resource.
Yes, all the things I just said, they're right here. You know, so because I do have to go kind of fast in the classes, but that's also the excitement of it is like is what do we do with this time? How do we make it all happen, make it work?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Kevin, I got one more question for you.
Okay.
So I want you to ask. You see me. I've never taken an acting class before. What do you say to me to get me in the door?
Well, I think I would ask. I would start with some questions.
Yeah.
Does acting interest you?
Yes.
Do you feel like when you are talking or maybe telling jokes, do you feel either one? Do you feel ignored, or do you feel really seen? Do you feel either of those things when you speak to people or have experiences in life? Do you feel like you're ignored?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, okay. And on the flip side, are there ever times when you feel like you've been applauded, or there's sort of a sense of, oh man, that was such a great joke and way to go, and amping you up? Is there a little bit of that too?
Yeah, I've had that every now and then.
Okay, great. Are there certain actors that you really love?
Oh yeah, I love Jack Black.
Okay.
Yes, School of Rock.
Man, that's such a good movie.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And do you find that you are drawn more towards comedy or drama?
Oh man, gotta say comedy.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Jack Black, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Comedy. Okay, great. So I would say that, if I was talking to somebody like this, I'd be like, well, I think all of us have something in us that's special that we want people to see. And I think acting is a wonderful place to do that. Also, if you get tired of being your old self all the time and want to be more like Jack Black or somebody, acting, especially starting off in easy scene classes, what I mean by easy is, we're beginner type stuff. I think that would be a great thing for you. And if you like the feeling of, getting a couple of attaboys or pats on the back, theater is a great place for that.
Yeah.
Acting outside of acting as a community too is a wonderful place for everybody. This is a slight side note that I would share with you if you're asking me these questions. I've got a friend who's got a 9-year-old daughter going through all of the things that 9-year-olds go through and struggling through life and what it's like to be a kid these days.
Yeah.
And she recently went to a theater camp over the summer. And I told both of them, I said, look, if you want an environment that is accepting, that is supportive, that is for anybody and everybody, then theater is the thing. And that encompasses all. Theater encompasses everything, right? In my mind, as we're talking about it. But being involved in that is it's just so great. It's so rewarding. It can be so fulfilling for people just to have an opportunity to be funny and not have someone roll their eyes at you, or to be funny outside of your home, or be funny outside of your family unit, right? Yeah. You get to a point, right, in your family and they don't think you're funny anymore. So wouldn't it be cool if I was in a space that I felt accepted to just be goofy? Or I've always wanted to try my hand at that one scene or that one monologue or that moment. And I wanted to try, I don't know, De Niro or whatever, like if you wanted to try that thing, this is the space for it. And there's such freedom in theater still, and we have to fight for this still. We have to fight to make sure that there's still freedom of speech and being able to really say all the things, because that's what theater is for. Yeah. The reason it's been around for so long. Yeah. And so, if you feel even a little tingle inside of you that wants to be an actor, because as soon as you have, there's a difference, obviously, between professional and non-professional for anything you do. If you love baseball and you want to get on a team, there's places for you to play. Doesn't mean you have to be, have to play for, professional teams. You're not
I'm going to the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's like, I want to be a Tiger. It's like, well, you could just also play for the local guys and have fun with it. Yeah. And there's no reason to call yourself an actor is fun too, in a sense that once you've done something, once you've been involved, you are an actor, and you can be an actor in any tier that you want, right? Yeah. That's why we have different tiers for all of these things. So I think that if you have even an inclination of, I want to try this out, go for it. And I will say another thing that I really wanted to be evident in the class, which is not evident in this podcast because I'm here being asked questions, is you don't hear me talk this much.
Yeah.
The point is you won't hear Kevin talk that much. Mm-hmm. The point is what work is being done in front of us. I'll jump in and I'll direct and I'll coach, but you're not going to hear me espouse like this. I'm not going to be going on and on like this. This is very verbose for these lofts for me. Yes. I never talk this much. I try not to anyways, so that it can be about the work. Yeah. That's it.
Well, if you're interested in learning more about Acting for the People, I know you can go to actingforthepeople.com, a great website Matt set up. And if you're interested in taking a class or a workshop with Kevin, there's an interest form on there, I think, that you can fill out.
Awesome.
I know that was a great pitch. So I'm feeling pretty jazzed about it myself.
Nice.
But before we conclude tonight's episode, any final words you want to leave us with?
No, other than I'm really happy that this place exists. Mm. It feels very welcoming. There's a lot of space, in this town that just feels too elite. And I don't mean by, it's not even what they're doing. It's sort of what's being made of it.
Yes.
That people make it into being something else other than it is. And it doesn't feel inclusive. It doesn't feel, in Los Angeles, it's tough to feel included, right? Because we all are so spread out and all over the place, and so it's nice to have a studio like this that feels so inclusive. And I love that Matt has been drawing from IFTP actors and members and going to them first and trying to make sure that they have the opportunity to experience this. And I imagine eventually we'll expand out to the general public so that whomever wants to come in can come in. Yeah. And not that we aren't allowing that now. That's 100%, I think, on the table. But I love that he's sort of, he's being so wonderfully, generous and, thinking of everybody and this person would love this class. I need to get them in there.
He knows.
As opposed to what can I get from you people? Mm-hmm. It's what can I give to you people? What would be best? You're going to love this actor. They're great for this. They're great for that. So I'm just so pleased to be involved in this community, beyond the acting community of Los Angeles. To be involved in this community is really great. And, it's fun to, what you're doing here is so cool too, to be able to jump on here and see somebody like Mindy Sterling, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's a big deal.
I was like, why are you here?
And the stuff she has to say is so great. It's like, oh man, she knows what she's talking about. And she knows what she wants, which I love. And any actor, she knows what she wants. I love that she said that she would rather improvise anything at this point rather than read from a script. Yeah. I'm totally butchering what she said, but she'd rather do non-scripted than scripted work, and I was like, "That's great. Know your
I trust
passion.
You with that.
Know what you're into." And so I love that this is an extension of all of that. I love that you're involved in so many different places, and that's inspiring to be like, "Oh, I could be over here doing the acting for the people, and maybe I can direct something over there and do this and that." And it feels very much like once you're in his group, you're good, and not in an elitist way. No. He's very accepting of everybody. It's a very Midwestern thing of sort of just hey, everybody, come and hang in my place.
Yeah,
come
on, y'all.
Yeah. We got some some cornhole in the backyard. We're tossing some bean bags, and we're eating some Jets pizza, and it's a good time. Yeah. But thank you for having me on. This is really cool.
No, thank you, Kevin, for coming.
And it's my first podcast. I've never done this before.
First podcast, but you've sat in this chair. But
I have sat in this chair. Yeah, to take some of the mystique out of it.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much to Kevin Young for coming on. Again, if you're interested in learning more, you can check out actingforthepeople.com. It'll be in the description of this episode as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching Improv for the Podcast. And until then, see you next time.
Later.
Improv for the Podcast was created by Matt Moore and Michael Lee Evans. Edited and produced by Michael Lee Evans. And finally, presented by Improv for the People. Interested in more IFTP? You can visit us at improvforthepeople.com or on our socials, such as Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Remember, new episodes are released weekly. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.